Chen Zhiliao, a top high school student, lies bored in his classroom, his attention only occupied by this girl he has a massive crush on, Qin Xiaomai, who's quite the pretty princess. She hands over her homework and Zhiliao has no problem collecting it. He in turn shyly requests a chance to join her guild in her quests later that night. Xiaomai shoots him a welcoming smile and tells him to meet her by 8 p.m. at the beginner's village and lets him know that her ID is bursting sweetheart. Zhiliao basically rushes home and meets a package waiting for him in his corridor, a package tagged Cosmos, the most popular immersive virtual reality online game in China. An excited Zhiliao was hell-bent on keeping up with time, seeing as his crush finally agreed to let him tag along. The Cosmos helmet, which allowed for nerve sensations to achieve a realistic game experience, laid before Zhiliao. He had zero gaming experience, but decided to power through nonetheless. A text from Xiaomai makes him hurry the setup along. He thinks it should count as their first official date. As he wears the helmet, the room around him switches to a deep blue welcoming note from the Cosmos console written in block letters before him. It was followed by a set of rules and a request for Zhiliao to choose his class. With zero gaming experience, he chooses to be a healer just because Xiaomai had mentioned that she needed one in her guild. He's then asked to choose an outfit and he picks out a one-piece suit, white sleeve and a blue tie. Whilst Zhiliao felt smug about his outfit inside Cosmos, the outside world was being terrorized by a terrible thunderstorm which was only getting worse by the minute. City officials had put out warnings to turn off all household appliances, but an engrossed Zhiliao had no idea. An uncontrollable bolt of lightning struck Zhiliao's home in that moment, and his Cosmos console was the perfect conductor for it. The lightning traveled through the wires until it sent shock waves through Zhiliao's Cosmos helmet. The gamer let out a scream as the whole neighborhood suffers a blackout. Mrs. Chen comes to his room to meet it empty and leaves even more confused. Back in Cosmos, ogres surround a red-haired damsel in tattered clothes, and Zhiliao immediately recognizes her voice as she cries for help. It's his crush. He holds hands with her and they kiss with admiration in her eyes. It all goes to waste when Zhiliao regains consciousness to see that he actually had been swapping spit with a desert chameleon the whole time. He sat upright, wondering what had happened. Confusion laced all of his being. How was he electrocuted but not dead? He decided to contact Xiaomai, but Cosmos came up with no matches for any player bearing bursting sweetheart. This left Zhiliao frustrated. He couldn't give up and so decided to locate the beginner's village in hopes of meeting her there. The journey was hot and pointless. He wasn't getting anywhere. He tried using Cosmos to pinpoint his current location, but the map only showed explored areas. Zhiliao couldn't take it anymore. He'd see Xiaomai in school anyway. He tapped the log out button, but the console read, unable to log out. His eyes shot open as he tried logging out a couple of more times, but was met with the same result. The last try and Cosmos automatically activated a mission. His only required goal: to survive. No rewards, no penalties, no limited time, only survival. Zhiliao burst out screaming, cussing at the top of his lungs about his bad luck. 8 hours pass and realization began for young Zhiliao. If he couldn't get out, he indeed had to survive, and step 1 was finding a water source. He had no idea that a ferocious desert wolf was stealth on his trail. He found rocks of limestone and followed them to a cave nearby. The sight of dripping water had Zhiliao running mindlessly towards it to quench his thirst. After drinking to his heart's content, he laid grateful beside the small body of water, and there he had the idea to scan Cosmos for hints to at least leave the desert since he couldn't leave the game. He pulled up the map of Cosmos. Beneath it was his stats, and of course, everything was at the lowest level. He moved on to scan the equipment at his disposal: an iron sword, leather gloves, 3 red potions, and 2 bandages. He retrieved the sword and gloves before turning to leave the cave, but the desert wolf wasn't having it. Its jaws shot open as the beast tried to bite off Zhiliao's head in its first go. He barely dodged it. What could he do against a level 5 desert wolf with a biting force of 200 kilograms? Zhiliao noticed he didn't go scot-free from its first attack as blood dripped down his right arm. He began to analyze. Comparing his abilities to that of the desert wolf, it was impossible to run. His only option had been the one he'd had from the beginning: to fight for his life. Just as he pulled out his sword, his Cosmos console sent up a low HP warning, but he couldn't pay it any mind. Zhiliao's mother had been a kendo fan from her youth and urged her son to master it. A young Zhiliao found that he had a talent for the sport and ended up as the president of the Swift Wind Kendo Club in his high school. He got there not only by talent but by practicing tirelessly despite failing numerous times. Even with his HP levels low, Jalao sought to put his kendo training to work, slashing at the desert wolf as heavy breaths escaped him. There were no effects on the monster. Jalao soon realized that the defense of the wolf was as strong as they come. The Cosmos assistant prompted him that the wolf's only weakness remained its abdomen, but getting there was the problem. He had no time to waste. Dying in a cave was never the plan. The low HP warning popped up again, but Jalao ignored it and ran head-on towards the beast. Whilst its teeth sunk deep into Jalao's right shoulder, he plunged his sword right through its stomach until it came up the other end. He pushed the corpse of the wolf off his sword and dropped to his knees, shoulder bleeding. The Cosmos console popped up again. This time with good news, he'd defeated a level 5 and was rewarded with a level up to level 5, a HP boost, and 25 assignable skill points. Jalao stood to his feet just then, replenished and feeling like $1,000,000 shiny bucks. The hidden level shop system automatically activated itself, leaving Jalao's eyebrows furrowed. He sat in the cave a while, trying to figure out more things about the world he'd been trapped in. He clicked on the hidden mall system and had his mind blown. There were so many upgrades, from weapons to mercenaries of different types and even household appliances, all costing different amounts and levels. Jalao clicked on mercenaries and holographic projections came forth, making him step back for fear of actually getting hurt by one of them. It began to dawn on him that Cosmos had been made for people to actually live and die in it. With his current level, only the daily necessities option was available to him and he took it. He was provided with just sugar, bread, and soda. As he nibbled on the food, he went over his stats and the effects the last battle had on them, which helped him distribute his assignable points to areas that would make him stronger. He felt the effects immediately after distribution and a smile came across his lips. Jalao felt he was ready for anything. The rest of the pack found their way into the cave and it was a welcome surprise for Jalao, who had been eager to test the effects of his improved stats. His first slash cut straight through the head of the first desert wolf, giving him an instant level up. Piggybacking on this, he ran head first into what was left of the pack, slashing and plunging his blade into any of them that came his way. The rush of power, the increased agility, all brought a glint to Jalao's eyes. He knew they were no longer a match for him and his victory proved it. He stepped out of the cave as a level 16 healer, but as he sought to find his way out of the desert, he noticed something had taken out more wolves and left them sucked dry in front of the cave. His eyes caught a glimpse of someone. He immediately thought it could be another gamer. He lifted his gaze and the silhouette he'd seen had simply disappeared. Jalao began to wonder if there were others trapped there or he was just seeing things. He was still in his thoughts when the Cosmos assistant began to blare a warning signal. Jalao instinctively swung his sword, taking the hand of whatever creature had tried to attack him. In that moment, Jalao knew that whatever had attacked him, whatever had bled the wolves dry, was nowhere near human but a higher level monster. Jalao got even more wide-eyed as the hand he'd once cut off the monster regenerated into place. It was a wandering dominator, a monster whose level was unknown, who survives the Laknaya desert by sucking the blood of other creatures. Jalao could feel its intense desire to kill and was immediately terrified. The monster leapt towards him with great speed, its protruding claws aiming for his vital organs, but Jalao quickly jumped out of harm's way to steady himself for a counterattack. He wasn't fast enough. Even as it seemed like his sword had cut through the monster, it only succeeded in hitting the ground. Jalao stood to his feet, still in awe of the monster's absolute speed, but before he could stand to his full height, it was right in front of him again. This time it plunged a punch so deep onto Jalao's stomach that he coughed up a sizable amount of blood. The gamer clenched his abdomen in pain. He soon found out that he was no match for the monster, but wonders why it doesn't just kill him off. It kicked him till he was unable to stand. Jalao's caution grew as the monster approached him yet again, fear filling him as it grew closer. It just handed over Jalao's sword to him and signaled for him to cut its neck, a belittling smirk across its face. Jalao felt insulted, felt so small, as though the monster was telling him to try his best just so it could feel entertained. It was the case of a cat playing with its food before it finally ate it. Jalao cries out, calling it a bastard, and it lifts him by the neck. The monster spoke for the first time, referring to humans only as maggots. This leaves Jalao confused as he did not expect the beast to have the ability to talk. He retaliates in anger, slicing off the monster's hand that had him in the air the whole time. The wandering dominator burst out laughing at Jalao's menial attempt as its arm grew into place yet again. Jalao's urge to defend himself increases by the second. The zeal to emerge winner, he pumped himself up, steadying his gaze and readying himself for whatever was to come. As he screams into nothingness, he's engulfed by a golden burst of cackling energy. In that moment, he was chosen by the god Latinea and activated his special blessing. All his stats were increased by 100. Blue essence leaked from Jalao's being as he lifted his sword in a war stance. The monster only seemed more amused. That's more like it said. That was the end of part 1 of my path to killing gods in another world. Thank you for watching, and if you want me to make part 2, then please comment down below. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get our channel's posts as soon as they get published.